Hello, America. So I'm just talking to my friend Greg, and I am talking about thoughts about afterlife. Now, in life after death, in life after death, maybe we'll be alive so long. Well, first of all, maybe we'll think that life was just... Okay, I got it. Let me start over. Okay, I only messed up the first 38 seconds. Okay, so let me go back to my original thought that I was telling Greg about. Okay, so if life after death, maybe when we get to life after death, we'll believe that life didn't really start until life after death, until our life and life after death. Maybe we'll believe that because death doesn't exist there. And maybe we'll remember life before death. But it'll be a trip because when we're there, we'll know that we're alive. However, we'll also know that there's going to be people on Earth that are still alive that don't believe we're really alive where we are. That they'll think we just are nowhere and nothing. And that's a trip. It's like right now, like everybody knows that everybody's alive that's breathing. However, when you get to life after death and you're still alive, the people back on Earth, they'll still be the atheists and the real scientific guys who just believe in science and what they can understand about the Earth and what makes sense and what they can add up together. But they won't believe that you, any woman or man out there who dies and gets life after death, will be alive, or me. They'll think we'll be dead. And that'll be a different kind of reality to be in, knowing that. And you'll be able to say to somebody in heaven, can you believe they really think that we're dead and like there's just no life after death? That'd be such a trip. That'd be such a trip. Life after death. It makes it less scary for me to face death because my grandma's already passed. And God forbid, when my mother passes, if I take my last breath after that, when I go, it'll be less scary if they're both on the other side. However, it'll be less scary to die, period, because if God forbid, there's just no life after life, and there's just death, and my grandma's nowhere, and my mom will be nowhere, then I won't mind being nowhere either, because I won't want to live anywhere if they're not somewhere too. And I'm sure most people feel that way about their family, of their loved ones. I mean, maybe for God, the reason why He created us is because He didn't want to live if He had to live without us. And so that's why He made us. I think I just figured out why God made us. I think I just figured out why God made us. Wow. That was heavy. That's cool, yeah. I got it on recording, so I don't got to worry about remembering what I just said. That's cool, too. Yeah, so God couldn't imagine living without us, just like I can't imagine living without certain people, without certain people making it to heaven, too. You know, and God, like the way I felt like it was just me and God, and just life was there as, when the white background was in that dream, Greg.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, so here I am again in life, but this time I can't see God right in front of me like I could there. But, you know, life is still there, except, man, there's a lot more going on. But it's like, kind of like, whoever you're closest to in life, like, you know, for me, I've had a few lights through, you know, the days and nights of my life, you know, and those lights sure were helpful during those dark times, let me tell you. You know, when the sun was shining and those lights were there, those people that were like lights to your life, you know what I mean? Like, it was like, you know, you're doing good for yourself. I mean, it was still, you know, their light still, you know, shine. You could still see their light even though the sun was shining. But I'll tell you what, those lights were like, people almost acted like guardian angels sometimes on Earth. You know? I mean, I can't tell you, like Greg, like I cannot tell you how many people have like helped me out. You know what I mean? Have like really been there. But back to the whole God thing. So God couldn't imagine living without us. That's why he created us. He couldn't imagine living his life without creating us too. And knowing we were somewhere bebopping along while he was doing whatever he was doing, like, and he didn't want to be alone, you know? And because God, with all his, like, if God was alone before he created us, like, when he created us, is that like what made him God? You know, is that when God title happened to him? You know, because it was given to him. Because, like, before he created us, Greg, he was a being, not human being like us, but he was a being, a God being, but with feelings, emotions, all that stuff, you know? And, like, could you imagine how scary it would be? Imagine life would be the white background, okay? Just life, okay? And then God's there by himself. He hasn't made the outer space yet. Jesus Christ is somewhere inside him. He can feel his son inside him. You know, just like when I got to that white background at the beginning of time. Like, I still felt like me. I could still feel like my mom was my mom. I remember even having knowledge of my mom, you know, and I was like, shoot, well, like, right now, I'm in a place where, like, there's a moment in, you know, every creation's existence where, like, you're like, right now, like, even a loved one isn't gonna be able to be the one to save my feelings now. You see what I'm saying? And like I remember feeling scared and alone, and like I needed God to show up, and God showed up. And you know, I mean, like, but what I'm saying is that, so like, I think God put like the different people here, you know, somebody that you're close to, whether it's a friend for 20 years, somebody that you love, somebody that you're close to, you know, to help you make it through, like, to get, because life still feels the same way as it did when there was nothing, you know, except now I'm in a place where, like, I can't see God with my own eyes, I can't hear his voice, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, at this point, like, those are, like, I mean, I want to believe so bad that those dreams about God was actually like him visiting me when I was asleep at night somehow, you know? But then I know, to the atheist, I know I'm kind of rambling and all over the place, I know, to the atheist, I sound like a man that basically has an imaginary friend, you know? Like a kid has an imaginary friend. Like, that's basically an analogy of, like, what an atheist would view somebody like me who, like, emotionally depends on God so much. You see what I'm saying? He's like, you're depending on an invisible entity that doesn't have a voice, doesn't have a face, you know, and if you're going to call Jesus Christ God, well, I mean, or you say he's the son of God. Okay, he's one of the faces of God, but like, to see the gold light, like the one who made the sunlight, Greg, and all my different dreams. It's like, Greg, I wish so bad, like, I could be right for once, and that like I told Miss Tasneem, I said, I wish, just my fantasy is that I'm right. I'm actually right about all my bullshit somehow. Just like people can't freaking. I'm not comparing myself to God, but just like people can't believe, can't comprehend what God's capable of, or what God knows, or what God, as far as time, space, and power goes. Like, nobody can comprehend it. Like, I wish that, just like nobody can comprehend my hallucination bullshit, how could it all make sense and be real? How could you look through Alyssa Milano's eyes, and Zac Efron's eyes, and Justin Bieber's eyes, and Madonna's eyes, and Miley Cyrus's eyes, and Britney Spears' eyes?
What if I told you I'm really Zac Efron?
Huh?
What if I told you I'm really Zac Efron?
I would almost fucking believe you on one level. Because I could believe that Zac Efron is like you could be asleep inside yourself, Greg. And Zac Efron is asleep in his body, and his soul freaking leaves his body and is actually being you with you, Greg, at the same time. Or maybe you're not asleep inside yourself. Maybe you're wide awake inside yourself. But Zac Efron is there and you don't know it. And he's like visiting you.
Do you want my autograph?
And he knows exactly what you're feeling right now and exactly what it's like to be you. But I'm pretty sure that like, I don't know, like, to me, I'm thinking to myself, like, what if, okay, remember I said the gold light and Jesus Christ were there in that room, and, like, God's like, I said, hi, God. That's what I said when I walked in the room. And God said, you can go to heaven now, Stephen. And I said, I'd rather go back and be with Alva. And he said, all right, you can, but everybody's going to know you died except you. And I said, okay. And I, like, got to, and Jesus Christ is standing right next to the gold light, right? And, like, in the dream, and I got to look into Jesus Christ's eyes, I'm not even sure I knew who the man standing next to God was when I walked by them, to be honest with you. And I know the dream happened before my grandma passed, because it didn't feel in the dream, when I remember it, like she had already passed. Plus, I already know that I remembered the dream before she died, so my grandma hadn't passed. Now, had my grandma already passed when I had that moment, maybe I would have gone to heaven anyways, instead of asking to go back and be with my mom. But, but there are times, though, don't get me wrong, where, like, I'm like, damn, I'm having a bad day, and I'm like, maybe I should have just told God, yeah, thank you for letting me go to heaven, and I should have just waited for my mom in heaven, just waited for her there, But then I think maybe God said, yeah, I could go back. In the dream, he said I could go back and be alive. Maybe it was because, not just because I wanted to be alive, and not just because, God gets how, like, a loved one that you love, having time with them, that'd be more important than how heaven is built up in our minds, what it's going to be like, and the peace and joy that you'd have there, I mean, but, God maybe did it because maybe, like, he wanted also, maybe he had other reasons as well for saying yes, not just to make me happy.
You know what Matthew never
But
did?
but wait, let me finish this before I lose it, Greg. But maybe it was also for my mom. Maybe he was like, you know what? My daughter, Alba, he's thinking to himself, is going to need the extra help when she, when she hits those 7 O's. So, you know what, it'd be, I'm gonna send him back for that reason too. Maybe he could kind of see I was gonna go sober. And so he was like, you know what, Greg might need him too. So let me send him back for Greg, because if things don't work out for Greg and things keep going bad for Steven for a while before he gets it together, then meeting will be a good thing for both of them. So he could think of some good reasons why it might be good for me to come back. Besides just because, and I think that, at that moment, though, like, I knew, like, he was God and he had the power, and, like, because, like, think about it. I'm like this, like, I talk my shit and think like, oh, sometimes I have my low depression modes, and then sometimes I think like, oh, I'm so close to God that I'm like way better than I was when I was making my mistakes for sure. And so, but maybe, but like right then when I said to God, I go, I'd rather go back. I didn't say, oh no, I'm not going to heaven right now. I didn't say, I'm freaking going back to life. You're sending me back to life. Use your power now. Make me alive because I do not feel like being dead. I didn't say, get all like bitchy and arrogant and be like, how dare you let them murder me, or did I commit suicide, or I didn't even ask God how I died in that dream, which is what I would have liked to ask him too. Like I was nervous and like just walked by him and Jesus instead of like standing there and having a conversation with them for a while. And then of course, I flexed about the dream so long, Greg, that I was like thinking to myself, oh my God, Greg, you know how my life doesn't make sense, but what if the reason why it doesn't make sense is because I'm so close to God, Greg? Think about it, Greg. Who was in the room with Jesus Christ and God in that moment? I was. Now, what do Christians tell you? That nobody could ever look upon God the Father, right? Nobody's ever seen the gold. Whoever made the sunlight, nobody's ever seen him. They've only seen Jesus Christ, the Son of God, correct? Yeah. Okay, so here I am saying that I've seen God in this dream, right? And I've seen Jesus Christ standing right next to him at the right-hand side of God, right? Which is exactly where he was standing, on the right-hand side of God, because I was looking at them from across the room. And as I walked by them, and we were the only three there. Now, Greg, what if... You want to hear my delusion of grandeur now? Okay, so, of course I flex on it too long. And now I'm thinking, oh my God, Greg, what if the reason why Greg, what if the reason why only me, God, and Jesus Christ were there was because I was part of the Trinity? I was the part of God that you don't worship, though. Like, they're the Father and the Son, and I'm the Holy Ghost. Yes, Greg. What if I'm the Holy Ghost, Greg? I know, Greg. I know. I'm having... Catholics will probably fucking, like, want to fucking, like, burn me on a cross, huh? Yeah. Greg, are you kidding me, though? I mean, come on. And then, so I looked through Jesus Christ's eyes. There's another angle to the dream, though. All of a sudden, bam, I'm looking through Jesus Christ's eyes, and I see myself as Stephen walk by, right? And I hear Jesus Christ think to himself about me, like Father or something. And I'm like, oh my God, Or like call me Dad inside his head or something. I don't know, Greg. Oh my God, I think I heard Jesus Christ think that. Like a dad word towards me when I walked by them. Yeah, so anyways. The dream got really 3D and Twilight Zone-y. Yeah, so anyway, so basically to make a long story short though, then I had the dream where I was looking through Mary's eyes when she was giving birth to Jesus, and I smelt the manger. The manger smelled awful. Of course, it was a dream that I had between 18 and now. However, I remember this other part of the dream, though. All of a sudden, I find myself looking through Mary's eyes, and I'm like, Mary, in the past. And I'm like, how could this be happening? Because I was just Stephen, and this, I already read this in the Bible, and the Bible was like 2,000 years old or something. I was like, how could this be happening after my life as Stephen? Because when I was Stephen, this was the past, and Stephen was my last life.
Oh, Greg.
Anyways, that like seriously is a mindfuck though. But it was like a time travel thing, man. Because like I'm Stephen now, and like when in this dream, in this moment, it was after after this, and all of a sudden, bam, I'm Mary in the freaking past, man. And I'm like, how the fuck can this be happening now? How could this be happening after I was Stephen? When I was Stephen, this was the past. Like, read it in the Bible. This was 2,000 years old. So I don't know what the fuck to do. But, you know, I don't know. Maybe these 3D dreams, maybe God, like, doesn't mind me having the 3D dreams about the Bible stories, you know, looked through Abel's eyes in the dream and got killed by, right about the moment he was about to get killed by Cain. Totally got killed by Cain. I'm like, shit, that's my first brother moment, is getting killed by Cain. Great. I mean, maybe that's why my mother, you know, I was an only child in this life. In fact, if somehow reincarnation exists and all my bullshit, all the rest of it's real bullshit, but for the one thing that's real is the whole fucking Cain and Abel dream, and I was really Abel in my last life before my mother gave birth to me. My mother Alba gave birth to me as Stephen. And what if, like, that dream was really actually the last memory of my last life, if reincarnation exists? And that's why it's just it's like the last 5 minutes of Abel's life. It's like all of a sudden, bam, I'm there. I got the offering in front of me, and then Cain fucking comes right at me and fucking stabs me or some shit. I don't know how they say it went down in the Bible. All I know is Cain stabbed me when I was Abel. Anyways, point is, in this dream, we'll call it a dream, because since I don't know reincarnation exists. But yeah, Greg, that's a trippy dream. But I'm telling you, man, I always like thought it'd be so great to have a brother, and then that's the bad dream I have about a brother. Man. Anyways, maybe the reason why God lets me have these 3D Twilight Zone-y dreams about the Bible stories is because God was like, you know what? Maybe it'll help me believe in the Bible. You know what I mean? Maybe it'll, you know, help me believe in the Bible more, you know? Which I guess you really only have to believe in Jesus Christ dying on the cross for your sins to get to heaven. It's not like a Bible story is going to get you to heaven, correct? Is that correct or am I correct? Bible story. You can believe in the Ten Commandments.
John
But
3:16.
I'm trying to tell you something though. You can believe in the Ten Commandments, right?
John 3:16.
Greg,
Huh.
you can believe in the Ten Commandments, okay? But if you just believe in those Ten Commandments, but are like, well, I don't want to worship a man. See, that was my problem at first, Greg, honestly, about the whole Jesus Christ thing, is because, and this is very personal, because, you know, I like to be a good Christian, right? But can you hear me even though you're, like, quiet?
I'm quiet.
Yeah, I've been talking for 22 minutes. So, this is the thing, is that, Greg... Oh, shit, I'm blanking out. Jesus Christ, what were we saying? What was I saying?
You were saying, at first you were saying, there's a Bible story here to heaven.
Okay, yeah, okay. The Bible story getting you to heaven. Okay, so yeah, you could believe in the Ten Commandments. Oh yeah, the whole believing in Jesus Christ thing. Yeah, I think that was difficult at first because, like, believing that, seeing other men, like, how could I believe in worship a man? Somebody that looks like a man. A God that looks like a man. I mean, that was a little difficult for me to wrap my head around because worshipping a man feels so wrong. You know? It's like to worship somebody else. Somebody that has two eyes and a nose. It's like... But from what I understand, though, is that the miracles that he performs for people is something that ordinary men can't do. You see what I'm saying? Greg, what did I just say?
Miracles you perform, mere man can't do.
Yeah, what does that mean?
Jesus does miracles.
Right, and then, like, so that's what makes me believe in Jesus Christ, right? Do you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, because that's what, like, you know, the lady touching Jesus Christ's cloth, because she, like, looked at him and knew that whoever made the sunlight had made this man too. You know, like, you know, this man was part of whoever made the sunlight. Like, you couldn't deny it. You know? Like, the fact that she was healed and stuff, like, that's stuff that, you know, it's like, good stuff, you know. Now, I'll tell you what's scary though, is the story about God turning that lady to salt just because she turned around. Isn't that scary? I mean, be honest.
Yeah.
Think about it.
Just
A
big-
powerful being,
She just big God.
a powerful, yeah. But I mean, my God, he's kicking his daughter Eve out of the Garden of Eden. He's turning this woman to salt for turning around because he told them not to turn around. I mean, think about if, okay, after being human, like I know, okay, not just a soul, but human too. Like I know how stupid humans are. So, I'm sure that as a soul, you can be arrogant and go, oh, how could they disrespect God? But as a human, after being so stupid, have you ever watched the Goldbergs and seen Barry, the brother Barry, and how like he keeps saying the wrong thing and his sister Erica's like, stop speaking, just stop talking, because he keeps saying worse things and worse things, and he's trying to like cover up that, and he just keeps making it worse.
Yeah.
Okay, it's like after seeing how, I mean, I know that's how stupid we can be. So like I can understand how a human can make a human mistake, and turn around when they're running away. But why can't God understand that? Why is he so angry and like kicking his daughter Eve out for fucking up and eating a piece of fruit? Which, I mean, there are more things to worry about. Why not have a talk with her and just, but why kick her out of the Garden of Eden? So he's kicking this daughter out and sending them, Adam and Eve, to the thorns because they lied, and then he's freaking going ahead and he's flooding the world because everybody's so bad. He's burning Sodom and Gomorrah. He's turning this woman to salt. I mean, honestly,
I'm never gonna forget the
I mean, that's big shit. Think about how you'd feel if you, your mom, Mark, and Heidi, God says, run that way and don't turn around, and your mom or Heidi fuck up and turn around and look, and they turn to a pillar of salt. Honestly, Greg, how are you going to feel towards God now? If your mom is a pillar of fucking salt, and fucking your fucking dreams of fucking life after death with your mother forever are fucking dashed because now she's as fucking dead as fucking, she's real death now. That's not where your soul goes to heaven and shit. And Jesus Christ didn't even exist back then yet. He hadn't even been born when that lady was turned to salt. I think that was before the flood. However, how are you going to feel about God? I'm asking you a question.
I don't know.
Why don't you know?
Because he's God.
So you're so scared of God that he could turn your mom to salt and you're going to be okay with it.
Yeah.
You're not going to be saying fuck you to God before you die. Before he fucking sends a lightning bolt to kill you.
I don't know.
Really? It's all about self-preservation. Who cares who he can kill anybody I love? Turn him fucking salt. He can turn my dad to pepper. And it's just fine. Really? See, with me, God knows, fine, God, you can give me all the hard knocks you want, I guess. But just make sure that a couple people that I love don't ever go through what I might have to. And I'll try not to talk about what I go through so they don't have to hurt over what I go through. That they never will. So, yeah, so I don't know, like, God, so if God turns me to salt right now, you're going to be like, you know what, God, you must have had your reasons. I love you so much. I don't need an explanation. Yeah, Steve must have just, I guess you'd get down on your knees and say, well, since Steve was such a bad person, please, God, expel any love I have for him in my heart so I could be a good Christian.
Turn Greg into a pimp.
No, anyways, like, and then part of me wants to back God up too. And part of me wants to say, well, you know what? God must have really known what he's doing. And maybe she was just a piece of shit. And since Jesus Christ didn't exist yet, God didn't want her in heaven. And, and he couldn't, so he just said, well, fuck it. She turned around. So, she was the one, I don't know. Like, I mean, part of me says, okay, maybe God had his reasons and God was right, and maybe there was something really bad in her. Maybe God was like, you know what? Maybe, for all we know, Greg. Oh my God. What if he turned her to salt, right? But then, like, he reincarnated her into a woman in that was born after Jesus Christ died on the cross, so she would have a chance to not only live again a regular life, but also have a chance to make it to life after death, where God is. Huh? Well, you got to think about these things, Greg. I mean, don't you want to know why? I mean, because, like, if I were just to explain to somebody, like, all of a sudden somebody's brand new life, right? And were to tell, like, how old do you think somebody should be when you explain God to them? I figure you could, you know, when they turn 13, what, is that when you tell your kid about God? Probably not. My point is though, if you were to tell somebody that, a man or a woman that has never heard about God, right? That had been raised by atheists and was now a 25-year-old atheist that was like kind of like secluded with their family, just they never believed in God. And so this atheist who basically always lived at home and was very like you know, kind of like somebody that just stayed on the inside of the house, you know, what do they call those? A recluse? Kind of like a recluse family and stuff. Okay, so you were going to explain to God to them for the first time, right? And they've never heard the idea of God, right? You can hear me, right? Okay, so if you were to tell them that God kicked his daughter out of the Garden of Eden, you know, he flooded the world and killed everybody, he burnt down a whole town of people called Sodom and Gomorrah just for having sex. He freaking, what else did he do that I said? You know, he turned the woman to salt, all that funny shit. Okay, if you were to tell them that, like, wouldn't that put fear in them for their God? You know, and doesn't the man who knows all that stuff, and that's just common knowledge for the Christian man, still seems to, you know, still turns to God just as much. Doesn't seem to let that enter their mind. However, I'm thinking, though, if you tell somebody just those things and they have no idea about God yet, and those are the first things you say, they would fear God, right? They would think God was like a big bad monster, right? I mean, you know what I mean? They would think that God's a big bad monster. Like, doesn't that sound like a monster? A powerful being with magical powers. Powers so great, they can create life. They can make death. That power can also create death. Not only can that power